Welcome back to another episode of The Canon, where I bring you the latest in comic book and superhero movie news. I'm your host, Terry, and it's my job bringing you stuff that matters. And today what matters is Justice League and DC. First off, we got the early reactions to Justice League. So if you aren't aware of how the movie things work, movies have what's called a review embargo, meaning that the studios give a date in which critics can release their full reviews of the movie. Currently, Justice League embargo lifts on Wednesday morning, which is, of course, about a day before the movie opens. It opens wide on Friday, but it opens Thursday night. So the closer you release your reviews to the movie opening, usually is a bad sign. So we got Thor Ragnarok, which Disney loved, the critics loved. So they let the review embargo go 2 weeks before the movie came out, which is a long time. It's because they're very confident in it. So that's the full review. However, the social media reactions, which is kind of a new thing, they were allowed to come out a few days ago. And so people that have seen the early screenings were able to kind of do a quick summary of what they thought of the movie. So if you haven't read these tweets, I would suggest you go out, search Justice League reactions. They're all over the place. Lots of articles compiling these tweets. But the sum of what everybody pretty much said for the most part was that the movie was about above average to good. And while the villain and the story was weak and the flow was all over the place, they really liked the characters. They loved Wonder Woman. They loved all the new intros with Flash and Aquaman. A lot of people said Aquaman stole the show. A lot of people said Flash stole the show. So, and one person said Wonder Woman stole the show. So, of course, it's all different opinions. But for the most part, it sounds like Aquaman and Flash were received really well. And I think the consensus everybody said is that I'm excited to see what comes next. That is probably the main takeaway from all the reaction, is that people want to see what happens next. And so I go back to when Batman vs. Superman came out, and we were having this conversation about pressure on Justice League. And so what I said at the time is, because of what happened with BVS, the pressure on Wonder Woman is moving up a little, but ultimately Justice League has to close the book because they're going to be the deciding factor if we move forward or not. And so Wonder Woman did go into it with a lot more pressure and expectations than it probably deserved to have. But fortunately, a lot of critics and fans liked it. I think it's a, decent movie. I'm not in love with Wonder Woman, but a lot of people liked it, so fine. And so, of course, if Wonder Woman did well, then that would lessen the pressure on Justice League. And so, I feel right now the same way I felt with BVS, which is Batman v Superman didn't have to be great. It didn't have to make $1 billion as much as people keep saying it should have. It didn't have to be 99, Rotten Tomatoes, whatever. BVS just had to be good. It just had to let fans like the new Batman and like the direction that we were going. Now, of course, we know what actually happened, but starting out, it didn't need to be spectacular because it wasn't a full team up. It was an intro. And so now where Justice League is kind of sitting in that same boat, where it does not have to be spectacular, it just needs to be good going forward, because obviously whatever the DC is going to do going forward, it is not the same as what they've been doing now. Now I have my whole thoughts on that. If you listen to me, I'm not happy about it. I like the DCU the way it is. I liked the artisticness. I like that it has something to say and that it wasn't cookie cutter. But it's a business. Warner Brothers want to make money, so they're going to go cookie cutter going forward, most likely. So all you got to do is get people on board with these characters. That way, when the Flash movie, Aquaman movie, Batman movie, Man of Steel 2, Wonder Woman 2, when those come out, people will be excited because this is where they get their first introduction to, okay, this is our Justice League characters. So that's kind of the census going forward. And I don't think this movie has a ton of pressure. And if it bombs, yes, of course, that's going to be a big effect. Same thing with BVS. BVS didn't have a lot of pressure, but the bar wasn't high. It just really missed the bar. So, of course, it makes it look way worse than it is. So if Justice League fails, then yes, it'll be a problem. But I think the bar for success is not super high. And so you got to think about like Age of Ultron. And as much as people try to defend that movie, which is crazy to me, the very least you can say it is nowhere near as good as the first Avengers. And so this is where you realize, and where I realized, like, hey, Marvel's at a popularity point where you like the characters enough. It doesn't matter if the story sucks. It doesn't matter if the villain sucks. It just needs to be entertaining. It needs to be fun and, see our favorite heroes together. Much like Civil War. Now, Civil War had a little more heart to it, but at the end of the day, the story makes completely no sense, and that's a whole nother video. But people still like seeing all these heroes together and introducing some new people. So that's the level DC needs to get to. We need to just like the characters first, or people need to like the characters, I say, because I already like them. And then that way, when we go forward, then whatever the movie is lacking, we still get our heroes together. And so, for me personally, I'll be dropping my expectation video probably Tuesday, because I'm going to see it on Thursday. But after seeing the reactions, my honest opinion is that my excitement has went to zero. Absolutely to zero, because it's tough. Movies are so tough because there's sometimes when you want to say, man, whatever the masses like, I just don't like. I don't like that general, vague, popcorn entertainment. But then there's some movies that I absolutely love, and then you find out every critic loved it and all the fans loved it, and it made all types of money. So it's not as easy as to say, okay, whatever the masses like, I don't like. Whatever I like, the masses don't like. It's not that easy. So I'm in a hard place to say that, well, all this praise is now turning me off. What it really is what the praise is about. And so that's the whole thing of people just looking at a number and judging things. You got to go deeper. You got to look at the reviews. You got to look at the averages, blah, blah, blah. When you really look at what they're saying is good and bad, it scares me because it sounds just like a Marvel movie. The villain is weak. He's pretty thin. The story is kind of thin and whatever, but we love seeing the fun characters. There's a lot of jokes. It's funny. That sounds like MCU. And again, I don't hate the MCU. The MCU is one type of meal. I don't need every comic book movie to be the same type of meal and flavor. I like MCU when I'm watching MCU. I don't want to watch DC and see MCU. I want to see something different. I want to see what we've been building, this grounded level that started with the Nolan Batmans, where we're looking at this in a realistic lens and we're getting to deeper themes. That's what I like color palette, whatever. I don't care about that stuff. You could turn the brightness up to 1,000 as long as the content and the dialogue is still there. But it seems like that's not the case. Whedon changed he didn't change the aesthetics, he changed the meat. As I like to use cake analogy. Zach has the frosting, he has the visuals, he has what it looks like, what it feels like. But the cake, the story, the dialogue, Whedon came and tweaked all of it. So we got a mashup, a cake made by two different chefs. And it scared me going into it and listening to all these reviews. It sounds like you get a decent product, but you did not get what could have been great. This movie could have been great from the first looks, and it's always the same with the DCU movies. The first looks from like Comic-Con, whatever, look amazing, it look cinematic, it look epic, it almost feels kind of indie. Whether it was Suicide Squad's first look that got leaked, and so they released it. Whether it was the first BVS trailer we got with the voiceovers, everybody arguing about Superman, whether it was the first Justice League cut, and now once we get to the product, it's been chopped to hell and made into something different. So I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts about it. Of course, I'm going to go see it. Of course, I'm ready. This is still a big moment for me to see the Justice League together on screen. But my excitement level is down to a zero because it seems like it really went general popcorn entertainment route. And, I like to avoid the reviews and all that. I definitely like to avoid the full reviews before I write my review or record my review. But, in this case, it's impossible to avoid. So I wish I didn't hear this stuff. But maybe it gives my expectations a realistic gauge. So when I go in there, I won't be super disappointed. Or maybe I will be a little more excited than I would have been. I don't know. So anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you thought about the Justice League's reactions. Have you seen them? Or do you not care what the reactions are? Or, kind of what you're expecting. And one last thing I'll say about that is this talks to a bigger point of people really being 100% into what critics say. And I listen to other YouTube people, the bigger people and all this and stuff. And they always say the same stuff, critics aren't the end all be all. Critics just have an opinion. Your opinion is as valid as theirs. Why does it matter? Blah, blah, blah. But the very first thing they do whenever they're praising a movie or whenever they're arguing, debating a movie, whatever, the first thing they go to for empirical evidence is Rotten Tomatoes score. They sit here and tell you, why does it matter? Why does it matter? But then the first thing they do is, this movie made this much money. It also has a blah, blah. These franchises all have 90 plus on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you're using it as factual evidence and arguments as if, those are benchmarks. And so if you use them that way, you can't turn around and say, well, it doesn't matter. Because obviously you've geared people to think it matters. And I guarantee you, average fans, big movie fans, whatever, whenever they're debating with their friends, they use Rotten Tomatoes as a bullet in their argument. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, that's fine for, fun debate, but it's bled over to, well, I'm not going to see that movie. It only has 40% or blah, blah, blah. There's tons of movies that I really like that are terrible on Rotten Tomatoes. There's a lot of movies that have super high audience scores and have crap on Rotten Tomatoes. There's Oscar movies that are 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and nobody would ever watch. So it's too much being put into these critics' views. Like, looking at the reactions is what really should open your eyes up. There's so much variety of opinion of the same movie. We can all look at the same thing and have completely different opinions based on who we are. And so the fact that people will sit here and say, well, the critics said this, like, they aren't you. You don't have to listen and follow to the beat of their drum. Anyway, I ranted on that too long. So real quick, in other news, we have a rumor going around that Black Adam, aka The Rock, will make his debut in Suicide Squad 2. So this actually is a non-confirmed story, but it has been reported by a very reputable source. So a lot of people are talking about it. So nobody has picked up the story as of yet, like the other, big sources. But still, it's a reputable source, so it's worth looking at. But the thing is, when you go back a little bit, The Rock was teasing us that they were having a surprise with Black Adam. He can't say where he's going to show up and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be a surprise. So a lot of people thought Justice League, I mean, there's a lot of places he could show up, to be honest with you. And a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot, but at least me, I thought he was talking about Man of Steel 2. Now, we haven't got any announcement of a Man of Steel 2 at all, let alone The Rock being in it. So this could have been what he was talking about. So a lot of people were kind of against this. So here's what I'll say. Because a lot of people initially say, well, how is the Suicide Squad, a group of regular people, supposed to fight Black Adam, who has enough power to fight Superman and Shazam? And so the way it's been termed, I think what they're going to do is excuse me. I think what they're going to do is he's not going to be necessarily the villain they're chasing. I think he's going to be like an asset or the property that they're protecting, and they don't really know what it is. And so a lot of people are talking about the recent comic series where Suicide Squad is transporting General Zod's body as a potential weapon of mass destruction. And so they're going to flip Zod and use Black Adam. And so I would imagine then that there's another villain that's trying to get a hold of him. And while the squad is protecting and fending, Black Adam off, he ends up being awakened. And I don't think he necessarily fights the squad. He might, knock him out and escape. But I think at the end he just escapes and goes on his mission, where he realizes, oh crap, it's 100 years later, whatever, and he's looking for Shazam and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's what's going to happen. I really think it's going to be a soft intro, maybe a cool little action scene when he awakens and fights the squad for a second, but I don't think he's going to be the main villain throughout the movie. That wouldn't even make sense. I agree with the fans. That would not make any type of sense for the Suicide Squad to have a mission to go hunt and fight Black Adam. Now, you could also say, well, how in the world they fight a ancient witch or goddess, whatever, and it's like Batman fighting Superman. It's like, okay, we find a way, we use science or whatever, find a weakness, blah blah. So yes, that's what the squad is. They're supposed to take on big threats because they just have that capacity. But at the same time, I think making Black Adam kind of the MacGuffin would really be a lot easier pill to swallow. And then you have somebody like maybe a Black Mask or the Penguin, whoever you want really as a villain that's trying to unlock this weapon of mass destruction. You can even bring the Joker back. I think he's supposed to be in this. So maybe Joker and Harley Quinn are trying to I don't know. Actually, I don't like that. But whatever. I think it's easy to play off. So right now, again, it's not confirmed by anybody, but it's definitely picking up a lot of heat. So we'll see. We'll see if they announce that. So anyway, go to the comment section. That's the news for today. Let me know what you think about Black Adam showing up in Suicide Squad 2. What do you think about the Justice League's reactions? How do you feel about the movie? You still going to go see it excited, or are you down a little bit? Let me know in the comment section. Make sure you share this out. I want to keep growing the fan community. Thumbs up, subscribe, and if you heard it here, it's official canon.